everyone. It's great to be in Berlin. So this is what my son said on Sunday when I asked him for some thoughts on the European venture scene. It was his birthday at the time, so I don't know if he really understood the question. But you know, there's a lot of confusion out there at the moment, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes going through some of my thoughts and just giving you some perspective. Martin and Tim mentioned some of what we've been hearing from the US. So, I mean, basically right now, you know, there's no question, but the weather does look pretty terrible. If you haven't experienced the storm, as Martin said, smart people like Allen and Company were predicting it a year ago, other people more recently, but, you know, things are pretty depressing. And, you know, our friend Jason Kalkanis a few weeks ago, I'm sure you've all read his blog post, was getting pretty depressed. We've seen Sequoia and Silicon Valley being extremely downbeat. And Dave McClure, at least, you know, sounded a positive note. And he basically said, listen, guys, you know, it's tough out there, get over it. And I think that's part of what I wanted to say today. You know, the fact is, startups are really tough. They are really, really hard work. You have no customers. At least he's got a product. You got no money, and basically all it is you and your team fighting an imaginary war, armed just with some big ideas. And if you haven't seen Pinky and the Brain, you should watch it. I'm sure it's on Hulu or Juiced or something like that. So I mean, it's tough out there, but you know, the fact of the matter is we've actually fallen from greater heights before. This is the amount of deals that were done. The peak is the bubble. And this is what we're talking about now on the right-hand side. Okay, so, you know, we have fallen from much, much greater heights than we're falling from now. And actually, if you think about it, some of the great companies were started in depressions. This is, I've got to use this pointer. There you go. 75, 76, this is when Microsoft and Apple were started. You know, they took 3 or 4 years to raise capital and then about 10 years to go public. And these companies were basically started at a time when, you know, this is the Dow Jones Index, was sub 2,000. And, you know, this is where it is today. It's at 8,000. So we're like 4 times higher than when Microsoft and Apple were started. And if you look at the last downturn, if you look at the companies who were started in the bubble, you know, Google, MySQL, Skype, Facebook, YouTube. So I mean, being in a downturn doesn't mean you can't create a great business. In fact, most of the great technology companies were started in downturns. And actually, if you look at the overall picture of the economy or the internet economy that we live in, you know, the internet's 6 times the size it was in 2001. This is the number of hosts on the web. It is just a ginormous place compared to what it was when that crazy level of deals was going on around the bubble. But something pretty phenomenal and fundamental has changed in the last 3 or 4 years. And if I was showing this slide in the US, most of the audience, I'm sure, wouldn't recognize most of the companies like Skyrock or Nationalklasse or Netlog or StudiVZ or 20. But these are all companies, along with obviously YouTube and Facebook and MySpace, that have totally rewritten the landscape of the internet in terms of the last few years and where people are spending time online. Just to put some figures behind that, and I think this is like really important, and there are going to be long-term repercussions here. If you look at how many minutes are spent, and this is ComScore data from July, at Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft, 159 billion minutes per month. Those social 14, the companies on the last slide, have just shy of that. But what's interesting is people spend more minutes per month on those sites. They generate more page views and substantially more pages per visitor. So this is a long-term systemic trend that is happening, which is going to be very, very fundamental. And you can see right now just where Yahoo is and how much it's going to have to reinvent itself to cope with this new reality. What else? You know, we're living in a new technical world order. You know, communism used to get a bad rap. I mean, Martin called it socialism in the last panel, but, you know, this contribution economy that Tim mentioned, where, you know, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, Python, Ruby, Ubuntu, Firefox are becoming, you know, the way that we think about programming. Firefox has a 42% market share. If you'd told someone this in 2001, they would have said, A, who's Firefox, but B, you know, Microsoft is never going to have less than 90% market share. This is a new reality. We've got these massive public resources, Wikipedia, Creative Commons, new platforms in the cloud, Amazon, Facebook, Google App Engine, changing the way we think about distribution and infrastructure. And then, you know, all of these resources that are free to help support and educate startups, Seed Camp, Open Coffee, Y Combinator, Bar Camps. These are just some of the 80+ open coffee clubs that are going on around the world right now. Look, we are facing severe and sustained recession. If you don't know some of these stocks, Mittal is steel, Anglo-American is gold, Citi's financial services, BP is energy. All of the major categories outside of technology year to date are down ridiculous numbers. Google down 62%, Nokia down 56%. Times are going to be tough, but the world has changed. The internet is not a US internet anymore. Asia and Europe are the main places where people use the web. Not in terms of monetization yet, but in terms of usage. And most people in the Valley, thank God, have not realized this yet. So there are massive opportunities for the Europeans. There is still a lot of capital in Europe. Lots and lots of capital. The capital is probably going to consolidate more in the top-tier firms, but there is plenty of capital to invest in European startups. But capital will look to back people who understand the new reality. This is going to be a lot more of a self-selecting time. We're not going to be backing people with PowerPoints. We're not going to be backing people with new social media ideas. We're going to be backing people who know how to do hard things for hard times. Angels will likely retreat as well. This is a time for professional capital. There are professional angels in Europe, but really, you know, people will focus on professional investing. And so what should you be doing? What should you be thinking about? Paul Graham wrote a great essay a few weeks ago saying, be like a cockroach. Be hard to kill. And here are just some tips. Focus. Don't panic. You don't have to panic. Bootstrap like crazy. Make your money last as long as you can. Make products that people want. It sounds obvious, but if you make products that people want, you may have a chance of getting some paying customers, which means, you know, you can get to break even. Cut your costs, as Martin said, but really make sure that you are getting to break even as soon as you can, and raise enough capital to stay strong. There is capital out there, but you've got to be really focused, and you've got to be lean, you've got to have good products, and you've got to really get money from your customers. So basically, you know, just to leave you on this thought, you know, however hard you work, being successful and doing well in a startup is mainly, or as much as anything, about luck. So whatever works for you, good luck. And if you want to email me, it's saul@indexventures.com. But thanks a lot for your attention. Cheers.